Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy new year, wherever in the world you may be as I'm recording this. My name is Turgon. In some way or another, I go by the name Turgon pretty much every season now. I've played 7 seasons of Lord of the Rings Rise to War. I have played every good side faction, with the sole exception of Lindon. And I go by different names of Turgon. In the first few seasons, I had a couple of other names. When I first started playing the game back in October of last year, I went by the name Decetheus. This was a name that was completely made up and given to me by a friend while I was in high school, seemingly a lifetime ago. Um, and then in season 2, I went by Exelion just because I thought he was a super cool warrior within the Middle Earth lore. Um, but then I didn't feel like I was strong enough of a warrior to really shoulder that mantle. So I switched to Turgon, Turgon the Wise, the king of Gondolin during the First Age. And I stuck with the name Turgon. There was a season where I played Erebor and I went by the name Turgon the Grumpy Dwarf, but mostly I go by Turgon the Wise. This season I'm playing Dark Side, the evil side for the first time, therefore I'm going to go by the name Dark Lord Turgon. Turgon, I love the name. And I love the lore. I'm a huge, huge fan of all things Middle Earth. And at any rate, this video, we're going to talk about my cumulative experience across all 7 seasons of Lord of the Rings Rise to War that I've played. And then I want to lay out my vision for the future and do a call to arms before wrapping up. So, again, my name's Turgon, and my cumulative experience, as you can see, is laid out before you here based upon the flags you see. I came in second place in my first season, and that was a pretty interesting season, pretty fun. I don't know how many people from the game still play. I know a good amount. I'm staying in touch with quite a number of people from the first season. Some of us have moved on, some of us are still together. And those relationships that people form within the game, I think that's an aspect of the game that's really cool and really interesting. And it's like this with every gaming community that you see. Any game that you play, really, that's an online game, you're going to jump into some community or another. And that's really what I'm hoping to do, is to create a community that's going to achieve the goal of creating an optimized user experience for this game. At any rate, in the second season, I played as Rohan, went by the name Ictalion, was a leader of a fellowship. I was not the leader of the fellowship in season 1. The people who beat us in season 1 and parts of my team and parts of other teams around the server joined together in season 2. We played Rohan. Rohan had 2 and 3/4 ish full fellowships, and then none of the other factions really on that server had full fellowships other than Mordor, who had like 2, and Gondor had 1 or 2, and then the rest of the server was fairly barren. Um, we were able to get one of the warbands in Mordor to completely surrender and faction change over to Rohan around this time a year ago, I think it was. I don't remember if it was shortly before or shortly after the new year, but we had taken the Black Gate within the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And a bunch of people from Mordor jumped ship and joined Rohan. I think a few of them might have gone over to Gondor, but by and large, they came over to Rohan because they saw that we were going to win the ring and they just wanted to get this gold banner. And there was some stuff that ensued that season, and I didn't manage it really well, to be perfectly honest. I'm not pleased with how I led the team that season. I ended up um, relinquishing the leadership role up until the last day of the season for a while because some things happened that just um, upset me. And I managed the team as I planned to manage it, which was democratically, and I didn't agree with the majority of the way my council voted. So that's what kind of happened there. And then we jumped over to season 3, played in a pretty toxic environment in Lothlorien, and got our butts handed to us. In season 4, we joined with a team that we met in season 3 called Serve, and we won as gold in our first War of the Ring campaign as good. That was the first season that this campaign came out. That was the first season this campaign came out. Everything was new. And then I played Tactics Evolved, staking with Serve, and we moved to the name Serve and played the first instance that Tactics Evolved came out. And that was a pretty fun season. We were kind of pinned in the corner as Erebor, with Variag and Rune putting pressure, and then eventually Lothlorien and Arnor came over, and Mordor came up, and then Variag flipped and started fighting Lothlorien and Arnor, and the whole complexity of the server changed, and it was a really cool season. All in all, we fought really, really hard, and it was a grind, and it was a lot of fun. And I think that season, due to the flip, um, had achieved some balance. If Variags hadn't flipped, then it would have been just a dominant, like a dominant server for Lothlorien and Arnor. So then we played as Never Gonna Give Up, Ngup, in another Tactics Evolved season as Gondor got pinned in the south. So here we were pinned in the east, here we're pinned in the south, and then as Arnor, we got pinned in the west. So I've had very similar experiences the last 3 seasons, and that's really the reason why I'm making this video, is because the last 3 seasons since I've played War of the Ring campaign, and then in the seasons prior to the War of the Ring campaign, really the primary determining factor of who was going to win each season, it wasn't necessarily based upon skill or number of whales or just military strategy or anything. It really was determined by diplomacy, and I don't like that. And that's the whole reason why I'm doing this, is because I want to create an environment where a large number of people can join a community, play together, have friendly competition, provide constructive criticism of one another, remove toxicity from the environment, have toxic people removed from the environment, and try to achieve server balance. And by server balance, I mean, like, you know, if the developers create a server where you can have a true 5-on-5, let's have a true 5-on-5 and not a 6-on-4. Or, not stack the deck so that that you're going to be able to beat the crap out of a faction, get them to flip, and then all of a sudden it goes from being perceived as a 6-on-4 to being an actual 7-on-3. So those kind of scenarios is what I'm talking about, where the diplomacy is kind of stacked. And I'm not pointing the finger at any one particular campaign or saying that this has happened to me or happens often across the game. I'm just painting a picture of a scenario that I think is a frustrating scenario for anyone playing this game to experience, which is that, you start playing, you get yourself farmed, you're really happy, you're having fun, you feel like you're strong, and you're able to have a good chance to win the ring, and then all of a sudden the whole server minus a few decent teams is against you, and you think you still might have a chance, but you really don't. You're just pinned down. You don't get to explore Middle Earth at all. You don't get to unlock neutral units really at all. You don't get to, enjoy all of the things that you should be able to enjoy pretty much during any season, because of the way that the server was stacked based upon discussions that were had by like 8 people. I don't think it's fair that 8 people can control, the outcome of a server. A season is usually somewhere around maybe 6 weeks is a super quick season. Typically it's 8 to 10 weeks though. And I think it's crap that within a week of the season, the outcome of the server is determined because of a conversation across like 8 people or 10 people. And I know you might be thinking to yourself, well, isn't that what you're trying to do? And in a way, you're correct. Yes, I'm trying to create an environment. I'm trying to create a vacuum essentially where I get to determine what happens. But the thing is, what I'm trying to create is an environment where the deck isn't stacked, where I'm not going to go, you're going to win this season and you're going to lose this season. I want to actually create environment where the the playing fields are as level as possible, and I want to see who wins through strategy and skill and not just by stacking the deck diplomatically. That's the vision. Okay, how do we do this? Well, we got to create our own community outside of the game first. That's really, you know, going to be the base of your cake. So, how do we do that? How do we create a community of fellowships and warbands, kind of similar to what KSCL is doing, except for that they do it pretty much to dominate servers and just acquire rings. And there's a number of different organizations, I believe, out there that do this. And I don't mean to call out KSCL or paint them as bad. That's not my intention at all whatsoever. You do what you do, and I'm not judging you, but I'm just saying that's what I'm trying to achieve, is where I can create a community of 3, 4, 500 players, and we get together and we sign up for the same campaign every season. And if that campaign ends up being one server, then we all get to play on the same server and we can control the variables. And yeah, there's going to be some random people that are going to join. We figure out a way how to manage that, to try to make it so that we can achieve parity across the server and we can actually have a solid user experience. Because every season that I've experienced, every single one, all 7 of these, I've yet to experience a server where every faction has someone in there, you know, like you would expect, like at some point to have that kind of a battle royale where like every faction has people in it. And we kind of were close to that in season 3. There was a couple of teams in Isengard, there was a couple of teams in Mordor, and Angmar had some really strong teams. And I can't remember even now who all on the dark side was there, but there was a pretty good amount of people on that server, and I don't think servers are that big anymore. So you're really looking for about 200 people to play each faction, and the only way to achieve that, I think, is if you do the organization yourself outside of the game, and then you have everyone sign up, and they sign up specifically for, you know, if you're playing um, a campaign where you can sign up for a specific faction, then you want to have your 200 people for this faction, that faction, and then that sprinkle of randos shows up and maybe throws you off a little bit, and you just reach out to them and talk to them about it, or adjust around them. You can't really try to control what other people do. You can politely ask, but you shouldn't really try to control their choices. If they want to do that, that's the user experience they want to have as part of the game, and you should respect that. So at any rate, that's the goal. And right now I'm signed up to do War of the Ring, and it's just a straight good versus evil. There's 4 factions each. I think that's probably the campaign that's the easiest to control the variables, create parity, and honestly have an enjoyable experience. I've only done it once, and it was the first time that it was released, and it was a lopsided server. We had like 7 good side fellowships, 7 or 8 good side fellowships, and like 3 evil fellowships, 3 or 4 evil fellowships, and a lot of those evil players quit within the first 2 weeks of the season, and really evil comes online late in the season. So it wasn't the experience that I had envisioned, but I think that this is the campaign that has the most potential to create that experience, which is why I'm discussing it as part of this video. So that is the vision for the future. We want to create a balanced, optimized user experience. We're going to do that by creating a community of fellowships and warbands, similar to what KSEL has done, but we have a slightly different purpose. Instead of creating a vacuum where we just acquire rings season over season, we want to create a vacuum where we have parity across the server, we have balance, and we can have a really good, strong, fun, entertaining season that starts on day 1 and ends on the last day. None of these ring battles where, you know, the rest of the server, other than 4 factions, take a week and a half to fill their barracks and set up the perfect ring battle conditions. None of that. That's not happening anymore in the vacuum that I wish to create. So we'll do that by creating teams outside of the game prior to the sign up. We'll manage potential for server splits as we encounter it, depending on what campaign we sign up for, and we'll account for random players who sign up. So that's the vision. I'm calling out to anyone and everyone who is watching this video. Share it with all your friends and your communities and your teams and warbands and fellowships and on your Discord servers, because I want everyone who is like-minded in this desire to have a fun, balanced server fighting experience with this game, come and join me. If you're not interested in that, if you're just one of those people who is trying to snatch rings over and over again, then we're not for you, and I'm not judging you for that. But you can go and do that over in your space on your servers, and we want to just have one server that's dedicated towards truly experiencing all the potential that this game offers. And that's the vacuum that I want to create. So I hope that this video resonates with you. I hope that it inspires you, and that you liked it and found it to be somewhat insightful in some way. Feel free to reach out to me in the comments below. I'm happy to correspond with you if you're interested in joining my vision. Um, you can always reach out to me as well on Discord. My Discord username, I will share it to you privately if you so wish. So give the video a like and a comment. Leave any feedback you have, any other ideas, recommendations, anything at all. I'm happy to hear what you have to say. And I hope you have a happy new year. Take care and stay well, my friends. Cheers.